Good morning and welcome to the Birmingham Post. Today we'll be hosting a roundtable in conjunction with the Department for Business, where we'll be discussing with various members of the region's business community, including figures from AWM, the Federation of Small Business, as well as employers and employees, to discuss a report by David Macleod and Nita Clarke looking at employee engagement and its benefits for business.
Is there any evidence that this attitude thing matters? Well, look, if you ask people some simple questions, like, would you recommend this place for people to come and work to, does work bring out the most creative ideas, and so on, you ask some questions like that, and you correlate the high scores with financial performance, they correlate. There is tons of evidence, there's a whole chapter, nearly killed us to bring it together, there's a whole chapter in this report just on the evidence that there is a correlation between those kind of attitudes, let's not worry about the word we call engaged, and the financial performance of organisations. Levels of absenteeism are less than half amongst the engaged compared with the disengaged. The last point I'd offer you is you cannot do this unless you have a sincere respect and belief and interest in the well-being of your people. The top quartile of employees in engagement terms, the 86% of them say, I very often feel happy at work. The disengaged is something like 11% say they often feel happy at work. You can't, if you're not worrying about employees' well-being, you're manipulating, or we are manipulating. So it's terribly important that well-being is a very important part of this concept. When we look around the organisations that were really doing this well, it always started with a leadership that had real strong respect for what people can do. They had within them a sense of responsibility, respect for the kinds of things that people can do when they've been offered it. What's an organisation that should know something about this is Toyota, the world's most efficient car manufacturer. And Sir Alan Jones, Emeritus Professor, he said the job of the manager is to do two things, or two aspects to it. He said the job of the manager is to enable people to be the best they can be. But they don't know just how good that can be. Just like the person we were speaking about, they don't know how good they can be. And our job is to make people, enable people to be as good as they can be for their own benefit and for the organisation's benefit. Good managers, I'm listened to, and a sense of integrity, a sense of value, then you run well on the way. And if you do that, my last comment is, it's a win for the organisation, clearly. If you add up more organisations winning, it's a win for the country. And if you do this properly, it has to be done with a sense of well-being. So it's a win for the individual. And there aren't too many things to do. And the final thing is, we don't need to invent anything, because I bet around this table there's some fantastic examples of it. There's fabulous examples of it up and down the country. We don't need to invent anything new. We just want to bring the average standard much closer to those that are doing it well. So I hope I've set your teeth on edge and said something that might stimulate a bit of a discussion.
Thank you very much, David. I mean, clearly, being happy at work is a clearly extremely important thing, but work is work is work, and I'll be expecting too much from our managers to be able to convince everybody that work is a good place to be.
When people get out of bed in the morning, I want them to feel as if they want to come to work, not as if they have to come to work. And I think engagement with each and every one of your employees is critical. They need to understand where the organisation is going. So I think communication is very important. I think the consistency of that communication is important as well. And you've mentioned values. I think that is critical as well. But it's something you can't just talk about over a short period of time. If you firmly believe in a set of values, if you firmly believe in where your organisation is going, you need to continually reinforce that through time. And as you do continually reinforce it, the team around you starts to believe in it. Once they start to believe, in my view, in what it is you're trying to do, they buy into it.
I've often heard many of my members talk about their staff almost as part of the family, which is why when the business fails, it is such a heartbreaking experience to have to let trusted, loyal and possibly long-serving members of staff go. because it is, they're certainly at very best close friends by then. They're utterly involved in the success of the business. Usually the communication's very good, and they're often done in a very informal way in the small businesses, which is often the very best way.
I think the expectations naturally, if you look at the way businesses have progressed, if we go back to the way the business was certainly in manufacturing in the 70s, the expectation level, was probably to turn up on a Monday and hope you haven't got fired by the Friday and get paid. Certainly now, as a manufacturing company, our employee expectations are certainly a lot higher than that, because the level of service that we give our customers and our employees is so much higher than the manufacturing company of 20, 30 years ago.
We do come across companies who still have a number of bad practices and actually don't consider the absolute basics of what makes an employee happy, that doesn't cost a lot of money. From incidents where we've got field sales staff starting at a company and they haven't got a phone charger. And instantly that reflects on the company the fact that they haven't got the basics, which is not going to cost a lot to give a field salesperson a phone charger or take the laptop out of the office. And it's actually quite an easy decision because they're so concentrating on the bigger stuff. They're missing what actually makes a real difference to an employee and how they feel and how loyal and committed they feel to that company.
80% of our managers are recruited from within, so they're promoted from within, they're not brought in. So going back to the family concept, we're very much a family. And also this idea of that it's led top down. We've inverted that triangle. I think most companies are sort of recognising. The most important people are the people at the coalface. They're the ones who are interfacing with our customers. So it's important that we recognise what they say.
Solely appropriate for all companies, but is actually employee share ownership plans or employee schemes where they can actually buy into the company, which gives a little stake, in terms of, we talked about benefits, but that can be one method that can work, and I've seen that work particularly within the cooperative sector, but wider as well in terms of buy-in into the company.